For a long time, I've been trying to figure out exactly where to start in telling my story. Who is Crystal Colors and where does she come from? And why am I going so hard for people like me? Mainly because I don't see it. Yeah, I see all the videos about makeup tutorials and all the cute little videos that, people in my community do. I love that. It's great. Awesome. But let's talk about the realness of what it's like for someone who is disabled to grow up in an environment that's not exactly positive, and it's not nurturing, and it doesn't help you grow as a person, and what that could do, and what people perceive you to be because of that. I want to say I was about 5 years old, and the person who was primarily taking care of me, who was my grandmother, passed away. After that, I remember nobody really being home, and I kind of was like home alone a little bit. Like sometimes I would be home by myself, wandering around, just doing my own thing. Nobody was really paying attention. Primarily because it was a lot of us, like cousins' wives, and it was just one person watching us. Then I went from there to live with a cousin, and I was completely alone. I basically was the female Fresh Prince. Didn't know it then, but I know it now. I grew up with my cousin and cousins, and I didn't quite grow up in a nurturing environment where everybody was treated equally, and we got the tools that we needed or what we needed to survive. We kind of just graduated, and then it was like, figure it out. But during that time, we weren't actually being taught how to handle finances or to do anything that normal people, when they get to a certain age, should know how to do. Me, more so than anybody, because I was disabled. And it was easier to do the things that were done because nobody paid attention. Now, I'm not telling my story for the people that know me to bash anybody. That's not the point of this. The point of this is to show people that, yeah, we are not all created equal. We do not all have the same rights. And some of us slide under the radar a lot more than we should. Because of me, what I went through as a kid, I believe every disabled person in America should have a social worker assigned to them at birth. No one should be allowed to just fall through the cracks. No one should be allowed to be taken advantage of. No one should be allowed to be mistreated. But unfortunately, we live in a country where people care more about illegal immigrants getting deported and LGBTQ rights, plus whatever you want to call it, other than the people that are born in situations they cannot change. Some of us are nonverbal, and they can't tell their story. And they're continued to be abused by people who are supposed to protect them. Most of my life, I have been in situations where I was completely defenseless and at the mercy of someone else. I went to school covered in bruises. I went to church covered in bruises. No one said anything. And when they did, it was just dismissed that the other children that I was growing up in the house with were the cause. I love y'all, I know. It wasn't like that. We grew up in an environment where one person controlled everything. I don't understand why she was that way. I appreciate her taking me in, but it stops there because there is continued damage that was caused to not only my nervous system, but my physical being. Some of the stories I'm going to tell are going to be a little bit trigger warning. But I'm not telling them from a place of hurt and pain. I'm telling them from a place of, it's somebody else out here that's going through the same thing and nobody's listening. I was about 6 or 7 years old, when I went to live with my cousin. I was not used to the type of environment that she gave. I wasn't used to spankings. I wasn't used to strict discipline. It was like I was dropped in a situation and was told, swim. Swim for your life. And I say swim because I'm a Pisces. So swim. No, I cannot swim for real. But you are removed from everything you know, everybody you love, and dropped in a situation that was automatically something that was not a good thing. Being so young, and you're looking for your mother, but your mother doesn't show up when she's supposed to. She doesn't call. She doesn't come by. You literally are sitting there watching papers being signed to sign you over to someone in front of you. You know exactly what's going on. But because you are physically disabled, the people around you don't communicate with you and they don't tell you what's going on. They just throw you in a situation. When I was younger, the discipline wasn't that bad. And I'm going to use the word discipline because that is what it was meant to be. But it went a little further than that. I remember the first time I really ever got in trouble was because my mom had actually picked me up for a visit. And when I came back to the house, I was sad. I didn't want to come back. I was sick. I had been running a fever. And I wanted to stay with my mom and I wanted to stay with my family. I didn't want to be there. They were not, to me, that was not my family. I was just with a bunch of strangers. And instead of my mom hearing my cries, she took me back. And that night, I come in the house. My cousin says hello to me. I have a habit, and this is something that I've realized because my daughter does it too, of speaking in a tone that is inaudible. But to me, I hear it. I don't know what that is. I don't know where it comes from. I just do it. So that night, my cousin says hello. I said hello back through my tears because, mind you, I'm crying. I don't want to be there. Instead of the person who is supposed to be comforting me because I'm missing my mother and my family, I am beat that night for crying and not speaking to my cousin in a tone that the cousin who was raising me approved of. It was almost like in that moment, I realized I was on my own. I ain't have no help. And so I basically grew up with the mindset of swim. You gotta survive this and you gotta swim. Then, time goes on, you kind of figure out how to fit into the situation, even though you know everybody around you doesn't really care about you in the way that the outside world thinks it is. But that's not their fault. That's what they think is the correct way to go about it. I never understood that, but it's almost like some of the people around me who were raised in two-parent households were worse off than the people that were raised by a single parent. It was almost like, if you didn't grow up in that, why are you doing that to someone else? And as a kid, you don't quite understand what's going on. You just know you're in a situation. There were countless times where I was being treated as if I was slow or something was wrong with me when it wasn't. I was not able to give my opinion on things. I was not able to pick out my clothes. I was treated as if I had an intellectual disability and it was only physical. I don't know the extent of how deep it was made to seem like I was intellectually disabled, but I do know that clues were dropped as I got older by other people. There were times where things went a little too far from me. And I was beat for simple things like having a conversation with my cousin and a friend of hers in the hallway, and it got back to her. Or I used to have to do this thing where I would walk around the neighborhood, and my neighborhood was still being built, so it was two courts at that time. There was a front one, the one we lived in, and then the back one. It was not a short walk. It was tiring. One day, it was like 95 degrees outside, and she wanted me to walk the neighborhood. It was hot. My body went through so many different things because she wanted to prove that she could rehabilitate me on her own and not send me to physical therapy. And as I'm now older, I'm realizing that did more harm than good in my entire life, because my body is so beat down and worn that it's hard sometimes to do daily tasks because I'm tired by the afternoon. So I'm walking this neighborhood. She tells me when I get back, oh, you need to do it again because it's the other children in the house. They went and followed you, and you didn't walk the way I told you to. Okay? Go back out again. Mind you, I'm wearing full leg braces and another pair of braces on my feet that are also cutting into my feet. At this time, while all of this is going on, she tells me to come in the house. I am beaten with a broomstick to the point where I still have actual scars on my back that I did not know existed till about a year and a half ago. I was wondering why, you get older and things hurt, but I'm now starting to understand due to bodily trauma, a lot of my back pain is from that day. And the doctors, and they're like, yeah, this is not normal. So, you learn to try to keep your head down as much as possible. I started staying in my room a lot. I still deal with a lot of depression. The smallest thing can set me off. Like yesterday, my neighbors upstairs don't get along. Let's just be real. And every time one of them has these episodes, it triggers my episodes to the point where it triggers a flight sense in my daughter, which also does not help me. It's not easy to live in this world where nobody pays attention because you're the little disabled girl. So they think everything that the person who is raising you is saying is the truth, and it's not. A lot of people live in this fantasy world where they think everything is supposed to go their way, and if they don't get it, they want to bully you into giving it to them. And unfortunately, I was bullied at home and at school. So I never had a safe place until now. And it took a lot of years to feel safe. And then, to be honest, I still have days where I struggle with going outside because of some things that have happened, but we'll get to that. I am a single mom with 2 kids. I love my kids both equally and desperately. And I have made it a point to try to be different than the environment that I grew up in trying to raise them. Do I discipline them? Yes, but I discipline them with punishments for a few days or a small spanking. It's never near to that level that I went through. I was told I had to go to school with holes in my shoes, where I was picked on at school because they could see my feet. And this didn't happen until after I went to private school. I was in public school before that and everything was fine. And then when I went to private school, it was like the bottom fell out. and she was able to hide the things that she was doing a lot easier. I don't understand. One teacher called CPS one time, and because she called CPS and she talked her way out of it, I was beat again. She blacked my eye. And when I went to church, someone asked her what happened to my eye. And asked me what happened to my eye. Before I could respond, she stepped in front of me and she blamed it on the kids that I was growing up with. I love those boys. They didn't black my eye. I never felt like I was good enough. I never felt worthy enough. I never felt like I mattered to anybody. I never had a voice. We don't even have the same rights as disabled people as an able-bodied person. And it was almost like when I thought I was going to be free of being discriminated against or treated as less than in the home I grew up with, I got into the real world and realized it was no better. And it scares me to think that there is someone out there who's younger than me that is going through the same thing because nobody hears them. Nobody's listening. Everybody thinks it's okay. I read a story where a girl literally sat on a couch and she was autistic and her parents just let her waste away. CPS was called, they deemed it safe, and walked away. Where was her help? Where are the people that actually say, this is my job to protect people in these situations? Like, I do not understand the state of the country, the world, how people look at people with disabilities. All of us are not the same. And we have no protection from anything. There's people that are raped with disabilities. I'm one of them. There are people who are physically abused. I've been physically abused. There are people who are emotionally abused. I've been through that, to the point where my son is not with me currently because his grandparents keep snatching him away. The last time we went to court, I won. I always win. In their minds, I lose. I don't know how, because I've never lost custody of my son, and currently he's supposed to be with me currently. And because they know that I've been abused, they chose to abuse me further. I'm not going to tell that story just yet because it's still writing and stuff, but just know it ain't finished. I'm going to get the last laugh on that one. And I'm starting to open up and tell my story because I want us to be represented in some way where people understand that we may not have a physical voice, but we have one. Some of us are not able to move, talk. We can't defend ourselves, and there's nobody listening. And the little girl in me is screaming, you gotta do better. You gotta stand up. You gotta say something. Because there's some little girl out there who's just like me, who nobody hears. It took me till I was in my 30s till I understood how strong I was and how weak the people who chose to mistreat me were. And I just do not understand how people are okay with the way that you treat people. The reason that God wants us to love one another is so that we can love ourselves. If you don't love yourself, you can never reach that full potential that God gives you. And a lot of people see your potential and they want to beat you down so you don't reach it because they never reached it. Because so nobody ever told them to be stronger or how to operate in a way that is not conniving and hateful. And please understand that we are all a soul. When this shell is gone that we all live in, no matter how your shell looks, that soul that you walking around inside that shell with is going to have to answer to God for everything you do down here. So be very careful about how you treat people. Even if you think that they're mentally not able to handle a situation, even if they can't speak, they know. They know. And even if they have a level of understanding to a certain age, they still have a level of understanding. Respect that. It really makes me sad because I'm watching creators talk about how they're deporting illegal immigrants. Illegal immigrants make it harder for people like me. It's so many people on public assistance and housing that the people who actually need it, like people like me, have to fight in categories with able-bodied people who are able to go out and do all the same things that they need to do on a daily basis with no problem. I literally watched my neighbor yesterday shovel her car out of the snow, jump in her car, go to the store, and come back home. Do you know how bad I wish I could do something that simple? It's not like that for me. And people don't understand, like, we push through a struggle that half the world has never seen. And I pray for people in other countries that are in my shoes because it's a whole lot worse for them. And as I said before, I'm not starting to tell my story because I want people to hate anybody that they know that is included in this. I'm telling it because I'm trying to help somebody else. The Disability Act needs to be reformed. There needs to be better things implemented for people with disabilities. Take the focus off the people that are coming over here. Y'all want to deport them? Do you? But stop putting so much money and effort into things that should not matter when the people who were born here don't have the same rights. And some of us are told from childhood that we don't matter because there's nobody who hears us. I have literally been dressed up as a doll from a small child on Sundays to about 19, 20 years old. And half the people watching me thought I was still a little girl, but I was a grown woman. Because I wasn't allowed to voice that I didn't want to wear this stuff. I had to do what I was told to do and shut up and keep my head down. To the point where I had a cousin that was a year older than me that lived with me, and she was allowed to wear adult clothes, and I was still being dressed up as a doll baby. Why? Because it's cute. The little disabled girl, wear a dress. She don't care. She can't speak up. It's not a game when you treat people like that. It affects your life going forward. It affects your mental. It affects your emotional. I already had a strike against me coming into this world. I didn't need any more. What I needed was to be protected and taught how to handle things as an adult. What I needed was somebody to tell me it's okay to feel like this. It's okay to want to cry and want to be angry. It's okay. But you got to fight. And as tired as I am of fighting, it's not over. And while everybody thinks that everything was easy, looks are deceiving. So I'm saying this to say that as I dive into my story, I'm not saying it, and I'm going to keep saying this in this video because please, y'all understand, this is not coming from a place of malice. It's coming from a place of there's somebody else like me out here who can't talk, who can't get in front of a camera and say, hey, where's our rights? Where's our help? Who stands up for us? Because if you don't come from a family of people who are affluent or who actually care, you get swept under the rug so fast they don't even bat an eye. And I want to change that. I want to change that dynamic. I want to change that stereotype that we are all grouped in together and no. We can't even get married in this country without taking a pay cut if we're two disabled people on a disability check. But you expect us to survive. If I go out and find a job, and I'm not one of those people that does not work. In fact, I also have a t-shirt business. So this is also not coming from a place of, oh, I'm on government assistance and I want to keep my assistance. It's not that. But there are some people out here who need that and need it to survive on a daily basis. But Trump wants to take all that away. We are not even allowed to make a certain amount if you have disability things before they take it. So if you work a part-time job and you work over a certain amount of hours and they don't think it's fair that you are trying to survive and make money, even though you may have kids or you may have medical things and different things like that, when they know, they take it. We have to literally every month put in a system how much money we make so that the next month, when they calculate how much money you make, if it's over a certain amount, they snatch that out your check. This is the world that people with disabilities live in every day, but nobody talks about it. So now I'm going to talk about it.